My husband Nestor was anxiously waiting outside the operating room for his first love, and I was separated from him by only a wall. When Pamela was wheeled out of the operating room, she weakly asked her husband, "Where is Sister Sabi? Why didn't she come with you?" Upon hearing my name, Nestor responded with disdain, "Don't worry about her, she's perfectly fine." But he didn't know that Pamela's new heart was mine. Chapter 1. The nurse covered my corpse with a white sheet, announcing the end of my life, although I was clearly dead. For some reason, my soul remained hovering in midair. I watched as the doctors busied themselves in the operating room. I watched as Pamela's vital signs finally stabilized, and the doctors wheeled her out of the operating room. Instinctively, I floated in her direction. Nestor was pacing at the door, his brows furrowed, his fingers unconsciously tapping the phone in his pocket. When he saw the doctor come out, he quickly stepped forward, his voice revealing his concern. "How is she?" The doctor stopped to address him. The surgery was a success, thanks to the timely heart donation. Nestor's face relaxed slightly, and he finally breathed a sigh of relief. "Do you know who the donor is?" "I would like to thank the family," he asked. Catching up with the doctor shook his head. "I'm sorry, Mr. Joe. The donor requested anonymity, so we cannot disclose that information." Nestor nodded. "All right." If Nestor knew it was my heart that was given to Pamela, I wonder how he would react. Would he be happy that Pamela could live well, or would he be saddened by my death? Thinking this, my chest suddenly felt a bit tight. How could I still feel something after death? I smiled self-deprecatingly. Soon after, my corpse, covered in a white sheet, was also wheeled out. I passed right by Nestor in the hallway. For some reason, he suddenly looked back, appearing momentarily dazed. Then he turned back and followed Pamela into the ward. Pamela was still asleep, and Nestor stayed by her bedside, waiting. I floated between them, like a third wheel. Realizing this, I retreated a bit. I suddenly remembered when Pamela once yelled at me, "Sabrina, if it weren't for your scheming, I should have been the one to marry Brother Nesto." Nestor had also said, "Sabrina, you should know why I married you." Ah, indeed. I was the third wheel in their relationship, but it didn't matter. I had already stepped back, although it was involuntary. Chapter 2. Nestor tightly held Pamela's hand, his forehead gently resting on the back of her hand. I quietly watched them, not knowing how much time had passed before Pamela's fingers twitched. Then, she slowly opened her eyes. "Brother Nesto." Her voice was still hoarse from just waking up, and as soon as she spoke, Nestor's heart tightened. The moment Pamela saw Nestor, her eyes filled with tears. "Pammy, you're awake!" Nestor quickly pressed the call button at the bedside to summon the doctor. "Brother Nesto, I thought I would never see you again." Tears streamed down Pamela's pale cheeks, making her look pitiful. Nestor's eyes were full of pain as he gently patted Pamela's hand. "No, everything will be fine now. You will recover." Seeing their affection, a surge of hatred rose within me. "Everything is fine for you. But what about me?" The doctor gave Pamela a thorough examination. Everything was normal, and she only needed to stay in the hospital for a while longer before she could go home. After the doctor left, Pamela cautiously asked, "Where is Sister Sabi? Why didn't she come with you?" Hearing my own name, I snapped out of my thoughts. Nestor's expression stiffened. He lowered his eyes, a hint of disgust in his voice. "Don't worry about her," Pamela responded with an "oh" and lowered her head, saying nothing more. But I clearly saw a faint smile on her lips. It was the same old trick, deliberately mentioning me in front of Nestor to test his reaction. Everyone could see her intentions except Nestor. After dinner with Pamela, Nestor checked the time and said he needed to go home. Pamela struggled to sit up, looking frightened. "Brother Nesto, I don't want to stay here alone. I'm scared." He took out his phone and checked it. There were no new messages. Nestor hesitated. "How about I ask Aunt Wang to come and stay with you?" Aunt Wang was our live-in housekeeper, responsible for Nestor's and my meals. "Can't you stay with me?" Pamela bit her lip, her voice growing softer. Nestor was silent for a moment, then unlocked his phone and opened our chat. Our conversation had stopped 2 days ago. The last message was from me, saying, "Let's get a divorce." He had replied, "Don't make trouble out of nothing." Chapter 3. Seeing Pamela look at him with red-rimmed eyes like a little white rabbit, Nestor's heart softened. He sent me a message. "I won't be coming home tonight." I pursed my lips. I knew, but I couldn't reply to you anymore. Seeing Nestor agree to stay, Pamela finally smiled. I knew Brother Nesto was the best to me. Nestor patted her head, his voice full of affection. "I really can't say no to you." While he went to the water room to fetch water, Pamela took out her phone. She opened her secondary WeChat account and sent a message to someone with a completely black profile picture. "Is everything handled?" The reply was almost instantaneous. "Don't worry. Everything is taken care of." A cold gleam flashed in Pamela's eyes. Dying and giving me her heart. At least she died for a good cause. So, she not only knew I was dead, but was also involved in my death. Looking at my semi-transparent body and the smug Pamela, a surge of hatred rose within me, but there was nothing I could do. I could only watch her act sweet and innocent with Nestor, living well in this world with my heart. When Nestor returned with a thermos, he sat in the chair and began peeling an apple for Pamela. However, he seemed a bit distracted. His gaze kept drifting towards his phone, which was set aside. When the phone suddenly rang, it startled him, and the fruit knife nicked his fingertip, but he didn't bother to tend to the cut. Instead, he walked to the window to answer the call. "Hello, Sabi." "Yes, I won't be coming home tonight." "What? She hasn't come back either?" Nestor's face changed slightly. "I understand." He hung up the phone. Pamela saw this and quickly wrapped his finger with a tissue. "What happened?" she asked. Nestor shook his head. "Something came up at the company. I need to go." I was taken aback. The call was obviously from Aunt Wong. So why was he lying? Pamela didn't seem to notice Nestor's odd behavior and nodded obediently. "All right. Go ahead then." Nestor picked up his suit and walked to the door. As he reached the door, he turned back and said, "Rest well. I'll come see you tomorrow." My heart stirred, and I decided to follow him out of the hospital. I wanted to see where he was going. Chapter 4. On the way home, Nestor drove, his face serious, seemingly preoccupied. Whenever the light turned red, he would open our chat. Seeing no reply from me, he sighed and put the phone down. I was confused. What was he thinking? Was he expecting a reply from me? But he clearly despised me. To be honest, our marriage was an accident. We were schoolmates but in different years. He was 2 years ahead of me, and it was he who helped me when I was bullied in school. I had a secret crush on him but never dared to disrupt his life. After Nestor graduated, I heard he joined the family business and had a bright future. Knowing I wouldn't cross paths with him again, I buried those feelings deep inside. Not long after, my father fell into debt and committed suicide by jumping off a building. My mother couldn't handle the blow and soon passed away. To pay off the debt, I worked during the day and took on a night job as a hotel maid. The next time I saw Nestor was at the hotel. He was drunk and unconscious, being carried into the presidential suite on the top floor, and I happened to be cleaning the restroom. By chance, I overheard a phone conversation outside. "The drug is in. Hurry over. The room card is in the door gap." Then they left. I knew this wasn't something I should get involved in, but after confirming there was no one outside, I was about to leave. But before leaving, I glanced back and saw that the person lying on the bed was Nestor. His face flushed. He frowned, his eyes closed, and his long lashes cast shadows on his face. Should I help or not? He once saved me. Could I just leave him drugged here? After hesitating for a moment, I took the room card from the door gap and locked the door from the inside. I poured a glass of water and walked to the bed, trying to wake Nestor. When Nestor opened his eyes, he was groggy. He looked at me and suddenly called out, "Sabrina?" I was stunned. Did he recognize me? Chapter 5. His expression quickly turned dazed again. "Senior, have some water and take a shower, okay?" I tentatively reached out and patted his shoulder, but Nestor grabbed my hand and pulled me forcefully towards him. After a dizzying moment, I found myself pinned under him on the large bed. He leaned in close, his breath hot against my skin, burning away my reason. My heart pounded wildly. Senior, please wake up. I kept pushing at his shoulders, but he was beyond reason. His scorching kiss landed on my lips. My mind went blank, and I heard the last thread of my sanity snap. Everything spiraled out of control. Faintly, I heard urgent knocking on the door. Nestor cupped my face. Sobby, focus. I didn't know how long it lasted, but eventually, I fell into a deep sleep, waking only when daylight filled the room. Recalling last night, I sat up in fear, seeing Nestor still asleep beside me. I wanted to sneak out, but my movements woke him. He squinted at me for a while, seemingly trying to recall what had happened the night before. What happened? His face grew darker as if he remembered something. My heart tightened, and I stammered. It was an accident, but he didn't want to hear my explanation. He coldly said, "Wait for me outside," and went into the bathroom, putting on a bathrobe. I bit my lip, feeling endless grievances. Why did he treat me this way? It was his loss of reason, so why did I have to bear the consequences? When he came out, he threw a bank card onto the coffee table. 1 million. Let's pretend nothing happened yesterday. I stared at the card, feeling a mix of emotions. With a hoarse voice, I said, "No need. Nothing happened anyway." Then, I opened the door and left the room. In the elevator, my legs felt weak, barely able to stand, and tears finally streamed down my face. Chapter 6. Forget it. I'll just consider it as repaying him for saving me. After crying my heart out, I consoled myself. To avoid any further trouble, I resigned from the hotel that very day. However, in my panic, I forgot to take the morning after pill. The next month, when I realized my period was late, I bought a pregnancy test kit out of a faint hope. But the 2 red lines on the stick sent my mind reeling. To make matters worse, on the day I went to the hospital to schedule the procedure, I ran into Nestor. He walked past me in a hurry, bumping into me, causing my papers to scatter everywhere. As he helped pick them up, he apologized, but then froze when he saw my name and the abortion form. Nestor looked up at me in disbelief, meeting my evasive gaze. "You're pregnant?" I stammered that it was none of his business and turned to leave, but he grabbed me. "We need to talk." Thus, under the arrangement of fate, I married him while carrying his child. He paid off all my high-interest debts. After marrying him, I found out about Pamela, his childhood sweetheart. They had been engaged, but I had inadvertently come between them. However, the baby didn't survive. 4 months into our marriage, Pamela's constant provocations finally made me angry for the first time. She called my unborn child a bastard. She called me a wretch without parents. I tried to stay calm, but she pushed me from the second-floor staircase. In excruciating pain, I saw her face twist into a malicious smile. Then she clutched her heart and fell to the ground. By the time Nestor arrived at the hospital, our baby was gone. I sat on the bed in tears, but Nestor's face was dark as he questioned me. "Do you know that Pammy has a heart condition? She can't be stressed. What did you do to her?" I widened my eyes in disbelief. "I didn't do anything. She pushed me. Our baby is gone." But Nestor pursed his lips, looking at me coldly. "Pammy is a kind girl. She wouldn't do such a thing." "Sabrina, you disappoint me." With that, he left without looking back. Chapter 7. Since then, the only bond between Nestor and me vanished. He never touched me again, and his attitude towards me remained cold and distant. Pamela was pleased with herself, playing the innocent neighbor girl in front of Nestor while bullying and insulting me whenever he wasn't around. "Just wait. I will take him back," Pamela said arrogantly, but I never thought she would use such means to take Nestor back. And in the process, she also took my heart. I had already signed the divorce papers. I had planned that once Nestor signed them, I would leave the city without hesitation. However, she had no intention of giving me that chance. Early one morning, Pamela tricked me into leaving the house. She told me Nestor was in trouble and that I should go to Genhua Road and wait for her there. Although Genhua Road was remote and I had some doubts, I still went because it was about Nestor. To my surprise, when I arrived, I was met with a premeditated car accident. I don't know when Pamela set her sights on my heart or how she managed to forge my consent form for donation, but as a person without family or connections, my disappearance wouldn't matter to anyone. She succeeded. Chapter 8. I closed my eyes for a moment as Nestor suddenly braked the car. Oh, we were home. As soon as we entered, Aunt Wang greeted us, saying to Nestor, "Sir, Madam hasn't returned yet." Nestor frowned. Got it. When did she leave? Aunt Wang recalled. It was around 8 in the morning. She got a call and then went out. Nestor nodded, indicating for Aunt Wang to continue with her work, then turned and went straight upstairs to my room. The room was just as I had left it. Nestor checked my wardrobe and found all my clothes and luggage still there, which gave him some relief. He sat on the sofa, took out his phone, and sent me another message. Where did you go? How strange. Why was he so intent on finding me today? I watched him wait for a few minutes. Just as he was about to call me, his gaze fell on my desk. There were a few papers on it. Nestor stood up and picked them up. They were the divorce papers I had signed. His face instantly darkened. Clutching the divorce papers tightly in one hand, he dialed my number with the other. The number you have dialed is switched off. Please try again later. The cold automated message made his face even darker. My phone had been shattered in the car accident. How could I receive his call? Watching his unusual behavior, I found it amusing. He had been indifferent to my life and death before, but now he was so anxious after my disappearance. It was ironic. He took out his phone again and sent me another message. Stop being stubborn. Come back when you're done causing trouble. Reading those words, an inexplicable sadness welled up inside me. When would he finally realize that I had left him forever? Chapter 9. The next morning, Nestor brought a meal prepared by Aunt Wang to the hospital to visit Pamela. Brother Nesto. Pamela's eyes lit up the moment she saw him. These are your favorite dishes. Eat more so you can get better quickly. Nestor gently laid out the food on the small table. Seeing his attentive behavior made me catch my breath. Oh, right. I shouldn't be breathing anymore. In any case, I felt very sad, because Nestor never remembered what I liked to eat. Or rather, he didn't care about my preferences at all. I don't eat scallions or spicy food. But the first time we had a meal with Pamela, he chose a Sichuan restaurant, because Pamela liked spicy food. They chatted warmly while I barely touched my food. Pamela looked at me half-jokingly and said, "Sister Sabi, don't you like the restaurant Brother Nestor chose? Or do you just not want to eat with me?" Nestor's gaze towards me turned somewhat inquisitive. No, I'm just not very hungry today. I had to force myself to eat a few bites of the oil-drenched boiled meat slices. I endured the discomfort to accompany them through the meal, but I ended up with a stomachache when I got home. It hurt so much that I had to go to the emergency room in the middle of the night. What did Nestor say back then? How can you be so delicate? You get like this from just one meal? Pammy is perfectly fine. I was too pale and speechless. Ended up staying in the hospital for half a month. I snapped out of my thoughts and saw Pamela pouting and acting spoiled. Brother, can you feed me? I don't want to move. Nestor chuckled. He was about to agree but seemed to remember something. His words changed to, Pammy, you're a grown-up now. You can't always have your brother feeding you. Pamela was stunned, not expecting him to refuse. Floating nearby, I recalled the argument we had before. What do you take me for? And what do you take Pamela for? Nestor had replied, Pammy and I grew up together. She's like family to me. Sabrina, stop being unreasonable. No matter how much like family, you are both adults now. Shouldn't you keep a proper distance? If you want to be with her, I'll leave. Our marriage was an accident anyway. I had cried bitterly. If it weren't for saving him, I shouldn't have had to go through all this. Nestor hadn't expected me to be so upset and was momentarily flustered. Don't cry. I'll be more careful in the future. Could it be that he remembered my words and that's why he refused Pamela? I couldn't help but wonder. Then I felt I was being foolish. Nestor didn't love me. Why would he care about what I said? Brother Nesto, are you getting tired of me? Pamela pouted, her eyes glistening with tears. Nestor panicked and quickly grabbed a tissue to wipe her tears. No, don't get emotional. It's not good for your heart recovery. I will never get tired of you. Pamela continued to cry while leaning her head on Nestor's chest. Nestor's body tensed, but he didn't push her away. Instead, he reached out and gently patted her back comfortingly. Watching Pamela's pretense, my heart surged with hatred. She had harmed my child and me, yet she could still act coy in front of Nestor with my heart. Brother Nesto is the best to me, Pamela sobbed. If Sabrina hadn't seduced you, would you have married me, Brother Nesto? Upon hearing this, Nestor was silent for a moment. Pammy, he said slowly, there are no ifs. What if Sabrina were gone? Would you be with me then? I'm no longer a burden. My heart condition is cured. I won't drag you down. Pamela clutched his sleeve, her face stubborn. Nestor sighed. Since I promised your parents I'd take care of you, I won't break that promise. Don't worry. Even though I'm married, I won't abandon you. I scoffed. Pamela leaned against him, appearing obedient, but her eyes flashed with jealousy. After visiting Pamela, Nestor went to the office. After passing the reception, he suddenly turned back. Have you seen my wife these past 2 days? He asked. The receptionist thought for a moment. No. Nestor's eyes darkened. Just as he was about to leave, the receptionist suddenly remembered something. Mr. Joe. What is it? Nestor turned back. Yesterday morning, your wife called. She said she couldn't reach you and asked if you had come to the office. You hadn't arrived yet. So I told her no. The receptionist recalled my call from yesterday morning. Yes. After receiving Pamela's call, I had tried to contact Nestor. His phone was off. I then called the office to confirm he hadn't gone to work before heading to Genhua Road. Hearing the receptionist's words, Nestor looked puzzled. Yesterday morning? I didn't get her call, he muttered to himself as he walked into his office. Thinking about it, he took out his phone again and saw that I still hadn't replied. How long will this go on? Nestor sighed, picked up the intercom. Secretary Lee, please book a restaurant for tonight, a table for 2. For our wedding anniversary. Hearing this, I looked at him in disbelief. Chapter 11. Nestor sent me another message. Sabi, I've booked a restaurant. Can we have dinner together tonight? I felt a bitter ache in my heart, my nose stinging. Yes, today was our first wedding anniversary, but what was the point of treating me well now? In the afternoon, Pamela called. Brother Nesto, when are you coming to be with me? Nestor frowned, his eyes fixed on his inactive phone. Brother? Pamela called out, testing his attention when he didn't respond. Sorry, Pammy. I'm a bit busy today and can't find time to visit you, he quickly answered, snapping back to reality. All right. Pamela sounded disappointed. Would Nestor really decline Pamela to have dinner with me? I was a bit surprised, but knowing Pamela, she wouldn't give up easily. Sure enough. Not long after, the hospital called. The doctor said Pamela had fainted and her condition was unstable, needing a family member to accompany her. A rare look of frustration crossed Nestor's face, but he still drove to the hospital. How's Pammy? Seeing Pamela lying in bed with her eyes closed, Nestor hesitated and asked the doctor beside him. The doctor replied, Miss Bai suddenly got emotional and couldn't breathe, so she fainted. With no one else to stay with her, Nestor had to wait for her to wake up. He kept checking the time on his phone, perhaps thinking about our dinner plans. But I couldn't keep the appointment. Nestor. After 2 hours, Pamela slowly woke up. Brother Nesto. Seeing Nestor, she started to tear up again. Pammy, I have dinner plans with Sabi tonight. I really can't stay with you. Nestor interrupted her as soon as she woke up. Pamela was taken aback. With Sister Sabi? Yes. She hasn't replied yet, but I can't leave her hanging in case she shows up. Nestor nodded. Pamela lowered her head, a subtle look of mockery flashing in her eyes. I guessed she must be thinking, Sabrina is already dead. How could she show up for dinner? Rest well. Nestor stood up to leave. Brother Nesto. Pamela sat up and tried to get out of bed but fell to the floor. Pammy! Nestor turned back, quickly rushing to help her up. In the process, his eyes caught sight of a small pendant that had fallen from the bed. It was the star charm from my necklace. What's this? He picked it up and handed it to Pamela. It's my pendant. Pamela's face changed slightly as she quickly put it away. Nestor found the pendant familiar but couldn't recall where he had seen it before. He helped Pamela back into bed and immediately headed to the restaurant where we had planned to meet. But he waited there all night and I never showed up. Chapter 12. The more Nestor thought about it, the more something felt wrong. He finally couldn't resist contacting a private investigator. Help me find out where Sabi went. I floated beside him, watching his uneasy expression. To be honest, I was curious too. How exactly had Pamela dealt with me? The private investigator quickly responded, reporting that there were no records of me buying tickets at the airport, port, or train station. The last time surveillance captured me was when I hailed a taxi in front of our house. Reading the investigator's message, Nestor felt a sinking feeling in his heart. A hint of panic appeared on his face. Track that taxi. The taxi was legitimate, and the driver was quickly contacted. The driver said he had dropped me off near Jendwa Road, but knew nothing more. There was no surveillance in that remote area. Jendwa Road is so remote. What was she doing there? Nestor recalled something Aunt Wang had mentioned. Around 8 in the morning, she got a call and then went out. He immediately ordered, find a way to check her call records. See who called her. Perhaps clinging to a sliver of hope, he didn't report it to the police. Checking the call records wasn't difficult. The last call was from Pamela. Nestor's expression was as if he had been struck by lightning. What? He abruptly stood up, knocking over the coffee cup on his desk. Warm coffee spilled all over the documents, but he didn't notice. Nestor finally remembered why he hadn't received my call. He had been at the hospital with Pamela at that time. Pamela had asked for his phone to play games. Then, he checked the surveillance footage again, though not obvious. I was wearing a necklace, with a star pendant. At that moment, all color drained from Nestor's face. He contacted the private investigator again. Find out who donated the heart to Pamela. I was amazed by Nestor's sharpness at that moment. His shock and pain seemed genuine, for once. His usually cold and indifferent face showed a hint of regret. The investigator's email quickly arrived. The donor was Sabrina. Nestor closed his eyes slowly. His lips were completely devoid of color. So, it was you? He murmured. I didn't know if he recalled the day before yesterday at the hospital when he looked back at me, covered in a white sheet. As he followed Pamela. Chapter 13. Nestor sped to the hospital at 120 miles per hour. He pushed open the door to Pamela's room and walked in. Brother Nesto? Why are you here so late? Pamela woke up, frowning slightly. Where is Sabi? Nestor's voice carried no emotion. Sister Sabi? I don't know. Pamela blinked, feigning innocence. My patience is limited. Pamela, where did you take Sabrina? Nestor took a few steps forward, towering over Pamela sitting on the bed. That star pendant was on Sabi when she disappeared. If you really don't know, why was it with you? Pamela bit her lip, about to lie again. Nestor grabbed her wrist. Whose heart is it? Is it Sabi's? Tell me. Seeing no way out, Pamela dropped her act. Yes, it's hers. She's dead. Hearing her words, Nestor's eyes darkened. If she's dead, I want to see her body. Where is she? Pamela laughed as if hearing a funny joke. Are you seeking justice for her now? Sabrina seduced you, got pregnant, and used despicable means to marry you, becoming an obstacle between us. Does it matter where she died? I took her heart, and now I can live well without Sabrina. You'll marry me, right? Her expression turned manic. Whether she's dead or alive, I'll never marry you. I've always seen you as a sister, never loved you. Where is she? Nestor shouted in anger. Pamela's face twisted with resentment. I burned her to ashes and scattered them in the sea. You'll never find her. A look of pain crossed Nestor's eyes. He gritted his teeth, but tears still fell. He actually cried for me? I was a bit surprised. Then, the police, who had been standing at the door, walked in. Pamela's eyes widened. You called the police? Nestor looked at her with nothing but hatred. Of course. But I won't let you die. After all, the heart beating in you is still Sabi's. Chapter 14. Pamela's words were probably true. She had taken care of everything so thoroughly that my body was completely gone. But Nestor didn't believe it. He frantically searched everywhere for my body. If I could speak, I would tell him to stop. Late affection is worth less than grass. He never loved me, so why act so pained now? Until he took out a photo album from the study. The first page held my student ID photo. I was stunned. That was my freshman year student ID, which I had lost. I never expected the photo to be with Nestor. Sobby. I'm sorry if I had treated you better, if I hadn't cared so much about Pamela, giving her false hope. Would everything have been different? Nestor stared at the photo in a daze. Then, he placed the photo and my star pendant into a small box. Sobby, you probably don't know, but I've always loved you. His eyes were red as he hugged the box, muttering to himself, even though you didn't love me, I kept you by my side, fearing you'd leave. So I kept testing and hurting you, ultimately causing your death indirectly. I was wrong. He loved me? I was bewildered. Was it because my soul was losing its emotions that I felt nothing seeing his pain? Nestor bought a plot of land, burying the box with the photo and pendant in it. It was my cenotaph. From that day on, he visited my grave daily with a fresh bouquet of lilies, sitting there for half the day, drinking and rambling about the past. It turned out Nestor knew I wasn't the one who drugged him, and the drug didn't affect him enough to lose all reason. He realized it was me and decided to go along with it. But afterward, he couldn't face me, so he wanted to cool down. Unexpectedly, I quit and disappeared for a month. He searched for me everywhere until he found me at the hospital, about to have an abortion, which made him desperate to take me back and marry me. Regarding Pamela pushing me down the stairs, he truly believed it was an accident. Pamela's parents had done him a favor, and before they passed away, they entrusted her to his care. There was never an engagement between them. As Pamela claimed, Nestor just didn't want to stress Pamela's weak heart, so he protected her. But no matter what he said, the harm he caused me was real, and it's something I can't forgive. Chapter 15. Pamela and the hitman she hired were both caught and sentenced to life imprisonment. Nestor used his influence to make her life in prison miserable. She repeatedly tried to contact Nestor through the guards, but he refused to see her. Soon after, Pamela committed suicide in prison. When the news of her death reached him, Nestor was at my grave, gently cleaning the tombstone with a damp cloth. Dead? As long as her heart is returned. Nestor answered the call, his voice icy. On his way back, Nestor drove distractedly, eventually crashing into a speeding truck that ran a red light at a turn. Ending it this way is good too. See you in the next life. At the moment of impact, I heard him murmur softly, his hands leaving the steering wheel. There was no surprise. Nestor died instantly, and I, watching my body become increasingly transparent, knew my time had come. If there is a next life, I only wish for a peaceful and happy life. Never to meet Nestor again. But when I opened my eyes, I was back in the hotel restroom. Outside, someone was on the phone. The drug is in. Hurry over. The room card is in the door gap. That familiar conversation. I was reborn. I stared at myself in the mirror in amazement. I was back to being a hotel maid. Outside should be the drugged Nestor. After the people outside left the room, I quickly stepped out. Nestor lay on the bed, semi-conscious. Recalling everything from my past life, I decisively opened the door and left without looking back. Let go of the savior complex, and respect others' destinies. In this life, I will live well for myself.